welcome to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles, and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. On today's edition, we're going to be joined by our Amerika Garcia-Grewal. She is the co-director of the Frontera Federation out of Eagle Pass, Texas. And what they do is they work with communities on both sides of the border to combat over-policing, support community health, and they say create systemic change. Our South Texas correspondent will be speaking, Sandra Sanchez, will be speaking with her about several topics, including those border buoys that we've been talking about going in the Rio Grande and much, much more. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But first, as always today, we're going to start by taking a look at what's trending across the border, starting with the federal government has filed a civil action against the Catholic Diocese of Las Cruces and the treasurer of Doña Ana County, seeking possession of Mount Cristo Rey for border enforcement activities. Now, the suit, an eminent domain action, seeks possession of roughly 14 acres of land that consists of Mount Cristo Rey and the surrounding area. According to the lawsuit, the Department of Homeland Security is asking for the land under eminent domain. The suit goes on to say the federal government, quote, has made best efforts to negotiate acquisition of the property interest sought prior to this condemnation action. The federal government is asking that the property be condemned and that the just compensation be determined, which the government estimates to be $183,000. Ruben Escandon, spokesperson for the Mount Cristo Rey Restoration Committee, it's a volunteer group tasked with the monument's upkeep, said he wasn't surprised by the federal government's persistence in expanding the wall through the mountain's base, but he is wary.
The concern is just that they don't damage the monument itself in the building of this of the wall or the fence, as you say. But the blasting supposedly has been a controlled blast, and at this point we haven't seen any damage to the actual statue. But that's going to be something that we can. It's going to be determined as time goes on. I mean, if the statue starts deteriorating or something like that, then we know that it could have had an impact, from the blast.
The diocese says it intends to fight this attempt to condemn Mount Cristo Rey. It says the property is part of a holy site. Atop the mountain sits a 29-foot-tall limestone statue of Jesus Christ. That serves as a shrine to thousands of faithful in the El Paso and southern New Mexico area, something we've covered here extensively on Border Report Live and, of course, on borderreport.com. Escandon says the monument has been there for 80 years. After reviewing legal findings and maps, Escandon noted that if the government acquires the land, the current plans do not appear to interfere with maintenance roads or public access to the mountain trail. Longtime ICE official David Ventruella has been chosen as the new head of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson told our partners at NewsNation. He was executive director of ICE's Secure Communities program, which deals with people in the country illegally who are in the custody of other law enforcement agencies. Current acting ICE Director Todd Lyons is expected to leave the administration for a role in the private sector at the end of the month. Lyons has worked for ICE for nearly 20 years. Before Ventruella rejoined the department last year, he worked for a private prison company that operates immigration detention facilities. The Senate has not confirmed a director for ICE since 2017, resulting in almost 10 years of the agency not having a leader in an acting capacity. Plans to convert a vacant New Jersey warehouse into an ICE detention center have been put on hold. Residents in Roxbury, New Jersey have been fighting to block the conversion of the building into a massive facility for 2,000 inmates. Reporter Katie Corrado has the latest.
The proposed ICE detention center in Roxbury officially on hold. On Tuesday, attorneys for the state and town reaching an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security that the agency must complete a full environmental assessment before beginning construction.
We're very elated about it.
Hundreds of people rallied outside of Newark Federal Court Tuesday ahead of a planned hearing that was canceled at the last minute because both sides reached a deal.
It's absolutely encouraging to see hundreds of people come out and push back.
Ordinary people can make a difference. It is
energizing and exhilarating, and it's really the only way democracy can work.
Under the agreement, DHS is allowed to have limited security and maintenance at the property. Any construction work is strictly prohibited until an environmental study is complete and a judge signs off on it. The study is expected to take 6 to 9 months and will require public comment. DHS's biggest hurdle will be proving that the sewer and water systems can handle increased demand.
We're going to keep our eyes on DHS, and we're happy that we won this victory for them today.
Governor Mikey Sherrill, Attorney General Jennifer Davenport, and Roxbury Mayor Sean Patillo issued a joint statement saying, in part, "We've been clear from the beginning that DHS's proposed ICE detention facility in Roxbury will harm the community and won't do anything to make us safer. If DHS conducts a proper analysis, it will discover that this industrial warehouse is no place for a detention center. If DHS continues to plow ahead after conducting its further analysis, we will return to court to seek relief immediately."
We realize this is only a first step. It's only a day's victory, and we have to keep our eyes on them.
That was Katie Corrado reporting. The Department of Homeland Security actually put a pause on buying any new warehouses to use as ICE detention centers once new DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen took office after the firing of Kristi Noem. In other news, U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers seized over 32,000 unapproved prescription tablets in Philadelphia last week that were allegedly being smuggled from Europe to an address in Georgia. Half the pills were seized in an air parcel from the Netherlands, the others discovered on a flight from London. Among the illegal pills were 7,500 lorazepam tablets, 2,600 zolpidem tablets, 2,500 diazepam tablets, and 2,500 tablets of alprazolam. According to the DEA, those drugs are commonly used for anxiety, pain, and insomnia and are all considered controlled substances. Check this out. On your screen now is a rare and endangered jaguar walking near borderlands in southern Arizona. Now, this video was taken by a wildlife camera for the Center for Biological Diversity, a nonprofit wildlife conservation organization of which we've had members here on Border Report Live in the past. Now, it released the video to show how planned border wall construction could affect habitat for the large cat that they have nicknamed Cinco. The images, captured in March and April, show a number of other animals also crossing in the Madrian Sky Islands. These are isolated mountain ranges bordering Mexico that rise quickly from a desert base and support multiple habitats. Jaguars are the third largest cat in the world, weighing 150 to 250 pounds. The Department of Homeland Security has plans to put new steel bollards, river buoys, and/or detection technology along 1,857 miles of the 1,900-mile-long border. You can find more details about this on borderreport.com. Time now to bring in our South Texas correspondent, Sandra Sanchez, who I'll let introduce our guests for today's program.
Hi, Rudy. Yeah, we have Amerika Garcia-Grewal in the studio today. Now, for years, Amerika and I have been on the banks of the Rio Grande, walking the dusty shores in Eagle Pass in 100 triple temperatures. And first time we've actually ever been together in studio, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
So now, last year, your organization kind of morphed into the Frontera Federation, which is a 501c3 group. Rudy briefly kind of described it, but tell me what you all are up to and why you're visiting, why you're here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Yes, well, today I was on the banks of the Rio Grande at the mouth of the Gulf of Mexico, which was absolutely amazing. This year we've traveled from El Paso all the way down to here, Brownsville, Port Isabel, and we've had quite the year. This is capping our first year as the Frontera Federation. Our tagline is Border Justice, Migrant Rights, Health Equity, One Fight. And the reason we have many issues here is because we haven't invested in our community, we haven't invested in the border, instead we've militarized it. And what we need is revitalization. We don't need this militarization.
Now, Eagle Pass is one of the first places in the state of Texas that received river buoys back in 2023. This was put in under Operation Lone Star. There's some video I took a couple years ago, and this was state-funded river buoys, very different from what is going in now. But however, the first area, closed down Shelby Park there, closed down access to the river. I mean, border security measures, you have always said, have been restrictive militarization of the border in the Eagle Pass area. And, how is the planned river buoys for that area being received, and also plans for additional border bollards, as was just explained in the Jaguar piece?
Yes. So one of the things that happens in Eagle Pass is that we already have concertina wire, we already have buoys, we already have border wall. And everyone's saying, what's the point? You've already done everything you can do here. Why are you spending your money on this and not on schools, not on water, the things that really, really matter to us? And what was really interesting coming down here to Brownsville was the marker buoys that you have. So I was on the U.S. side, which is dead, to say, and looking over at Mexico, looking over at Foro Baghdad, and it was so full of life. There were so many people there. We could hear music going, and that echoed the experience that we've had kayaking on the river, where the U.S. side is completely cut off and the Mexican side is full of life. And so we're really focusing on a living river, a place that is safe for us to live, a place that we can make a living, but it's also safe for the animals, also safe for the people who pass through those different areas. But yeah, definitely in Eagle Pass, the question is, why are you doing this? It's a waste of money. Put the money into the people instead.
Now, Rudy, I was going to ask you if you could go back and just play that short clip that we just saw of the Rio Grande. This was sent to us from Becca Hinojosa, and this was taken actually yesterday. And this shows brand new federal river buoys going in here in Brownsville. This is an overhead shot. She actually took up, she's with a 501c3, the South Texas Environmental Network, correct? And they actually flew over, and we just got this courtesy of them. And, it really does show these river buoys started here in Brownsville, but they are supposed to go 500 miles. They're supposed to go all the way to the start of the Big Bend region. And that includes Laredo, that includes Eagle Pass and Del Rio, which is where you're from, Amerika. Are they going to take out the current state buoys and put in these? Or are they just going to augment it? Do you have any ideas or communication that's been happening?
No, and in fact, one of the things that as we've asked questions, as we've tried to get more information, the information is eluding us. The Customs and Border Patrol Smart Map was completely taken down. So before we could take a look at what the situation, and certain people could say, wow, that's going through my home, not just through my property, through my house. Now there's no information, and we're having a lot of trouble with public information access requests and FOIAs. On one hand, the city and county officials don't have any information, and so when we do get the request back, they're like, we don't know, nothing was shared with us. And then on the other hand, when we ask the federal government for the information, there is no answer.
And just to dovetail on that, I actually did yesterday specifically ask the Department of Homeland Security to send me the most updated smart wall maps, because they no longer are available, and we have not yet received that information, but if we get it, we will put it up on screen.
We're speaking with Amerika Garcia-Grewal, the co-director of Frontera Federation, about the border barriers from here in Brownsville to the border barriers that the state put in up in Eagle Pass. We're going to continue the conversation when we get back and ask as many questions as we can before time runs out today. So stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 2 minutes. Edition of Border Report Live. South Texas correspondent Sandra Sanchez joining us today, as well as Amerika Garcia-Grewal, co-director of the Frontera Federation out of Eagle Pass, Texas.
Amerika, this week we've been reporting on the deaths of 6 people that were found near or inside a rail boxcar in Laredo. But News Nation, our partner, is reporting that actually this train originated in Del Rio, which is just north of Eagle Pass. And, I know that your organization in the past has helped with operation identification to help fingerprint remains of migrants who die in the field. And tell us, how is that program going, and how are you involved in any way in helping with these latest cases?
Thank you. Yes, the Border Vigil, our sister organization, has been holding a vigil every month to recognize and remember those who died on our border. This is mostly migrants who died of drowning deaths in Maverick County, but also people who died of exposure, and also U.S. citizens who are killed in head-on collisions with high-speed chases, often referred to as bailouts. But there have been over 100 deaths on Texas highways in high-speed chases that were initiated in pursuit of somebody suspected to be a migrant or to be carrying migrants. So the Border Vigil's been in operation since 2023, and in 2024 we expanded to help with the fingerprinting and the removal of DNA samples to then send for testing and comparison.
And have they helped to make any matches or, help to reunite families with some of their loved ones' remains?
Yes, we have. So when Operation ID from the Forensic Anthropology Center at Texas State University comes down, we do a push. The field clinics will set up, and we are overstaffed or over-volunteered. We have a number of different folks from, City of Eagle Pass, volunteers, Maverick County Sheriff's Department, and so on. And we try to do every single step in the process from beginning to end all at the same time. And then the fingerprints are uploaded to the nameless database where a fingerprint expert is standing by to try and identify. And then we turn around and take it to the judge to get a death certificate issued, which then begins the process of notifying the consular officials and telling family members about the death in their family. And we have had results come back in as little as 90 minutes.
Wow.
Some of the bodies that we have helped with fingerprinting and with the removal of DNA have been in either the Webb County Medical Center or in the City of Eagle Pass, the Maverick County morgue, for as many as 7 years. So to be able to take a body that's been an unknown entity for years and to have an answer in 90 minutes is really, really powerful.
Wow, that's really helpful. I was with you as watched the volunteers and the students, the anthropology students, working with the cadavers, the victims, and it was just an amazing process a couple years ago. Wanted to switch gears. You mentioned something really interesting found in the junkyard there in Maverick County, concertina wire scraps. What is going on? What are you seeing?
Well, concertina wire has been installed in Maverick County through Operation Lone Star since March of 2021, and there have been miles and miles of this concertina wire being installed. As the river has risen and also as the bank has crumbled because of the heavy use of all of the vehicles going back and forth, they've had to move some of that wire. And it's very difficult to reuse it, so what they've done is they've just collected all of that wire and scrapped it. We were driving along the river and we saw a spot with what we thought were piles of brush or something. So we turned in to make our U-turn, and we realized that it wasn't brush, it was wire. It was purely wire. And I believe we have some footage for these.
You did send us some photos. Do we have? Okay. Basically just a whole bunch of scrap of the concertina wire. And unknown what it's being used for, why would it be deposited there. This is wire put in by the Texas Military Department. I do want to say I did reach out to the Texas Military Department yesterday, specifically asked them, is it time to replace the wire? If so, are the contractors supposed to remove it? Are the contractors supposed to leave it there? Is this going to cost Maverick County to remove it themselves? I mean, is this harmful to residents in any way? You said people are selling it for scrap.
Well, that was what was really interesting, is that we made this U-turn, we saw the piles of concertina wire, and so since then we've been looking for this. I think it was Thursday, Friday, we saw the great big piles, and on Monday we were driving over the overpass there in Eagle Pass, and we saw a pile of concertina wire in one of the scrap yards there in Eagle Pass. And we went down, and sure enough, it was a great big pile of concertina wire inside the scrapyard. So since then, I've actually been on the road coming down to Brownsville, and I haven't had a chance to follow up. But we'd like to know what the life cycle of the concertina wire is, because it has no functional use. In fact, in some places, it's a war crime. So I really would like to get it out of Maverick County, because our home is not a war zone.
Well, and there's tons of concertina wire here on the banks of the Rio Grande here in Brownsville. Again, these are put in by the Army Corps of Engineers. So if we get that information, we will update this. Wanted to ask you, you also mentioned something interesting to me, concerns of man camps that are happening there in Eagle Pass. Does this relate also to the military being there?
Well, so we have a military base that was installed in Eagle Pass in 2024. And what was really interesting to me in our trip from El Paso to Brownsville is that the same activities that we saw in Eagle Pass are now happening in other places. And so I've got some photos from Presidio County where they're doing the exact same thing that they did in Maverick County, which is first they take in the bulldozers, they scrape the land, and my guess is next they're going to bring in lots of trailers. Now, we are looking at the statistics from 2021, and what was incredibly startling to me is that the number of violent assaults and sexual assaults went up in Maverick County almost to the day that these man camps came into Maverick County. And so we're trying to get the word out to domestic violence shelters and to let them know that these issues may arise in those communities as these numbers of men come in.
Well, but we have no evidence that proves any correlation between this, right?
I only have the statistics that show the rise in population led to a rise in crime statistics. I can't tie the two together. But we did take a look at the previous months, going back several years, and we have data reported on other kinds of crimes. That particular kind of crime correlates with the beginning of Operation Lone Star and the rises in numbers of soldiers and Operation Lone Star along the border.
Has the sheriff or police chiefs been asked about the cause for a rise in violent crime out there?
They haven't. In speaking to some of the domestic violence shelters, what they've told us is that as tensions at work go up, it tends to get carried out at home. And again, the rise in employment is tied to Operation Lone Star and enforcement along the border.
Okay, we'll look into that. Did want to ask you, again, you're down here touring the area, and you have a Living River Coalition group planned for the end of the month, I guess it's May 29th through June 1st. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is episode 1. There is so much that is going on, and most of us have, friends and family in San Antonio, Dallas, many other areas, but we tend to kind of stay in our spot along the border. So what we're trying to do is bring together all of us who live here, the plants and animals, who care for the plants and the animals and the earth here along the river, and also those of us who care about those who pass through. And we want to continue making a living in our home here along the border. And so we're bringing them together to talk about, what are our concerns, but also how can we work together.
So these are tours of the border that will be held in Eagle Pass as well as the sister city Piedras Negras, Mexico, over that weekend, correct?
Yes. That weekend will start out with an in-gathering by some of our indigenous leaders in the area, and we'll go into tours of what our community is like, but then also talk about what's similar where you live, what's different where you live, how can we support each other and move forward. And like I said, I'm calling this episode 1 because I expect to have more of these from Brownsville to El Paso.
And is there a cost for this, and who can sign up, and how do they do that?
The fair share cost for this is $300. We're asking for $5 to register, and folks can contact us at 830-294-8380, or they can send an email to connect@fronterafederation.org. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, Frontera Federation.
You also have, I believe, a website as well that you have information there on it. Okay, so and if somebody wants to go, they have to go for the whole weekend, or they can just pop in and pop out?
No, pop in, pop out. So we have activities on Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday and Monday, we have track 1 and track 2. If you want to go deeper, you can stay in Sunday and Monday. But if you can only get to us on Sunday, we're going to start over on Sunday and continue into Monday.
And there's also going to be a border vigil at the river, correct?
We will conclude with the border vigil, our regular monthly border vigil, on Monday, June the 1st.
And that is in memory of people who have died trying to cross the river. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Rudy. What were you going to say?
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. We've been speaking with Amerika Garcia-Grewal, co-director of Frontera Federation out of Eagle Pass. You can find more about this upcoming event they have at fronterafederation.org. Thank you so much for joining us in person today, Amerika.
An honor. Thank you.
All right, stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 2 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Border Report Live. We'll see you next time.